Right, good morning everyone. Bonjour à tous et à toutes. On va commencer. Le gros événement de la journée, évidemment, c'est la conférence humanitaire sur la République démocratique du Congo. Jens vous en parlera dans quelques minutes, mais je vais d'abord passer la parole à Catherine Huissou de la CNUSED qui doit partir rapidement. Donc je lui donne la parole la première.
Merci beaucoup. Bonjour à tous. J'ai mis au fond de la salle la dernière mouture du programme pour la semaine du commerce électronique, donc qui commence lundi pour toute la semaine jusqu'à vendredi. Et je voudrais juste aujourd'hui vous pointer trois ou quatre événements qui peut-être vous intéresseront. Tout d'abord, lundi, il y aura une évaluation de la disponibilité au commerce électronique des économies dans les PMA et donc les pays les moins avancés, les plus pauvres, avec un certain nombre de ministres qui seront là, notamment le ministre de l'Industrie et du Commerce du Libéria, M. Wilson Tarpe, le ministre du Commerce, le vice-ministre du Commerce du Myanmar, M. Aung To. Et puis, vous avez toute la liste des participants sur le web. Donc, je ne vais pas aller plus loin. Je vous donne les rangs ministériels. Ça, ce sera à 10h. Il y aura à midi une présentation de la stratégie européenne pour le développement de l'économie numérique. Ce sera donc lundi aussi, en présence du commissaire européen pour la société et l'économie numérique. Donc ce sera également en salle 17, donc lundi. Et puis l'expérience chinoise sur le développement numérique dans l'économie du partage. Donc ce sera à 4h30 lundi aussi également en salle 17. Et puis je voulais mettre l'accent sur les tables rondes ministérielles qui auront lieu mardi. La première adressera la question des femmes dans les opportunités économiques numériques. Et puis la deuxième table ronde portera sur l'impact du numérique, de l'économie numérique sur le développement durable. Il y aura là aussi une palette de ministres pour en discuter. Ce sera avant le segment de très haut niveau qui aura lieu l'après-midi dans la salle des assemblées et qui parlera bien sûr de l'implication sur le développement des plateformes numériques à ce sujet. Donc je voulais vous dire qu'il y a plus de 1000 personnes qui sont aujourd'hui enregistrées pour les 60 différents événements de cette semaine. Je vous invite à regarder le programme, il y a beaucoup d'autres choses et on est à votre disposition pour rencontrer les participants ou les experts ou vous donner plus d'informations sur le contenu. Voilà, merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup Catherine. Est-ce qu'il y a des questions pour Catherine? Très bien, alors merci beaucoup Catherine et bonne chance. So I'll invite now Jens Lark from OCHA to give some highlights on today's humanitarian conference for the DRC and also Itayi Viriri from the International Organization for Migrations who also has an announcement on the DRC.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm not going to say much because the conference itself will start in half an hour or 25 minutes at 11 o'clock in room 19. As you will have seen in the media advisory that was sent out a few days ago, but I do understand some of you didn't receive it, but was resent now from UNIS. There is a press stakeout at 1 p.m. That's at the stakeout point outside of room 19. At that stakeout point at 1 p.m. we will have Mark Lowcock, the Undersecretary General for Humanitarian Affairs and Emergency Relief Coordinator. We will have European Commissioner for Humanitarian Aid and Crisis Management, Christos Stylianides, and the Minister for Foreign Trade and Development Cooperation, Ms. Sigrid Haag from the Netherlands. The three of them combined are the three co-hosts, so UN, EU, and the Netherlands. And they will take your questions. I think we will at that point, actually, we expect to have a ballpark figure of what the results of the announcements that are made this morning will be. So we hope to be able to announce that at that point. We will wrap up later in the day, probably around 5 p.m. with a press release with the exact result of the day's pledging and announcement, and also with a list of who announced which numbers. One thing I'd just like to put up, again, I know many of you, it's very old news for you, but some of you it may not be. We have a response plan, of course, for the DRC. It's asking for $1.68 billion this year. That amount of money is not the target of the pledging conference today. It's not the target of that. We're not trying to raise a full almost 1.7 billion today. Fundraising against that appeal has already begun. It was launched at the end of January, and it will continue for the remainder of the year. It is an important event today, where we will have some announcement and pledges, but it's neither the beginning nor is it the end of the fundraising. It's just, I want to ask you please do not compare whatever the result is today with that full appeal request as the benchmark, because simply it is not. What I can say instead is, perhaps, which is more relevant, I can tell you that last year, total funding to the DRC reached $541.5 million US. That is total humanitarian funding for all humanitarian action in the DRC. So that includes projects that are in our humanitarian response plan last year, but also projects outside of the response plan. The pledging that we will hear today can also be made, of course, against the response plan, but it can also be made outside of the response plan. That is what I wanted to say. I'll not labor the point anymore, but if you have more questions about the numbers and how to get around them, please do be in touch, and we'll try to sort it out. Thank you. The press conference is outside of room 20. Sorry if I was unclear on that. Thank you.
I wonder if we should maybe allow our colleague from IOM, and I'm sorry I got his name wrong, it's Jorge Galindo, who is with us today, not Mr. Viriri. So why don't you tell us what you have to say on DRC, and then we'll take questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just a very brief statement. IOM is also joining the Humanitarian conference, and our Chief of Mission from DRC, Jean-Philippe Chaussy, wishes to stress that the funding levels required to address the enormous needs have not been met. Only 11% of IOM's appeal for 2018, which is $75 million US, have been funded. We continue to provide life-saving services for some 200,000 crisis-affected people in the Kasai province by providing them with access to healthcare, water, sanitation, and hygiene, as well as implementing preventive measures against gender-based violence. In the last year, IOM's displacement tracking team has collected information on some over 500,000 internally displaced persons and over 1 million returnees in the 3 provinces of North Kivu, Tanganyika, and Central Kasai. Just a brief quote from our Chief of Mission. "We simply cannot ignore the speed and magnitude of the crisis in the DRC. The international community needs to step up its support and strengthen its commitment to the people of DRC. Equally important is it to strengthen the efforts to stabilize the country, helping the DRC government to find a way out of the spiraling crisis." Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we'll go with Constantin, please.
Thank you very much. Does the delegation, the official delegation of the Democratic Republic of the Congo participate in this forum?
I think what you have all seen and heard in the news, they have officially declined their participation. What I can say is that as of this morning, I do not have on the official speakers list at the conference anyone from the government of the DRC.
Yes, excuse me, follow up. What about other delegations? Are there any countries who refused to participate because of the refusal of this DRC delegation?
I don't know how to answer that question really. How can you refuse an invitation? We are, of course, it's unfortunate that the government did not want to participate in this. How other governments or other organizations who have also been invited, how, whether they have decided to participate or not, well, you will have to ask them themselves. I can just see those that I have on the speakers list. Obviously, they are there. There's no one from the government of DRC, but there are certainly others. For example, from Belgium, we have the Deputy Prime Minister who is participating, and of course we have the Minister for Foreign Trade and Development from the Netherlands also as one of the co-hosts.
Okay, Ben, please.
Hi. Probably you don't know the answer, but for the 540 million last year, do you have any idea how much of that ended up in programs run by the government? Is it zero? Like no money raised goes to Kinshasa? Or is there a percentage that funds their own humanitarian programs?
There were total 541.5 million, if I misread that. Of that total amount, 460.9 million was channeled through the Humanitarian Response Plan, coordinated by the UN and with all our partners. These are UN and NGO organizations who independently implement their programs. It's not money that's channeled through the government. I'm talking about the 460.9 million. That is channeled through independent humanitarian organizations. The remainder of that amount, which is 80.6 million, is outside of our plan. We can just register that this is funding like that has gone to humanitarian action. That may or may not be part of some bilateral government to government support. We'll have to look into it in more detail, but it's clear the money, the amount that went through the humanitarian response plan is actually 85% of the funding. So the vast majority of the funding is not channeled through the government.
Very quickly, and I'm not going to get an answer, but I'll try. Has OCHA gotten any sense from the DRC government that it is frustrated that it doesn't have access to a significant percentage of the funds raised?
To my knowledge, no. We have had humanitarian response plans in the DRC for many years. And to my knowledge, that has not been an issue in the past or today.
Good. I think I saw Isabel's hand up there.
Regarding the important increase in the amount of money that is needed, could you be more precise on what are the sectors that need to be more reinforced and for what you need more money?
What I can say, many of these questions, of course, you could ask also at the 1 o'clock stakeout. What we have seen is a significant deterioration of the humanitarian situation, particularly in 3 areas of the DRC, which has combined added to the overall amount requested. The breakdown per sector exactly in the response plan, I can happily send to you. I don't have it written out, but certainly there are needs in all sectors. But the breakdown I prefer to send you so you have it in detail by email, if you don't mind.
Okay, we have Catherine, then Nick, and then Tom.
Yeah, a kind of follow-up on Constantine's question. The Minister of Foreign Affairs of DRC has declared that any NGO that would accept the money that is the pledges of today would not be allowed to work in DRC. So what is the reaction of UN on that official declaration?
It is a statement that we have seen in the press. To my knowledge, we have only seen it in the press. It has not been officially communicated with any details to the UN in country.
I mean, it was on DRC TV, not only in written Europe in the press.
Right. Again, it's not an official communication from the government of the DRC to the United Nations. So, of course, we will be seeking more details of what is meant. We have certainly taken note of that, but we will need to seek more detail from the government of what are the implications of what was said. That is all I can say for now.
Yeah, but I mean, he spoke about the NGOs, particularly the NGOs. He did not say anything about agencies, UN agencies.
That is correct, but bearing in mind that we have a 1.7 billion response plan, a lot of that is implemented through our NGO partners, and NGO partners can indeed have projects directly in that plan. It is a UN coordinated plan. It's not UN's plan per se. It's the humanitarian communities plan. And we can have NGO projects in that. So these are the kind of details. What is meant by that? Of course, we will, at any time, the NGO partners that we work with, we will try our best, being the UN, to look after their interests as well, because we have a common strategy, we have a common purpose of trying to implement these humanitarian activities, which are so desperately needed in many places of the DRC.
Nick?
Jens, did you get any official statement from the government about their participation in this conference? And if so, who did it come from and what exactly did it say?
To my knowledge, I have not seen an official communication from the government addressed to somebody in the UN. I have, however, as I think you all have seen, on government letterhead, these declarations being sent out. We have seen them on television. We have seen the ministers saying them. So I don't want to get lost too much in the protocol. I think they have made their position quite clear, and I will leave it to them to elaborate on their position. Our position is, of course, that we need to refocus. We need to reset what we are trying to do here, which is to raise desperately needed funding for the humanitarian needs, to meet the humanitarian needs in the DRC, where 13 million people need our help.
Quick follow-up. If 1.7 billion isn't the target today, what is?
As much as possible, obviously.
Okay, we go to Tom, and then I see Catherine and Frédéric.
Yeah, if the Belgians and the Swedes are coming to this pledging conference, but the Congolese are not, should we conclude that Europeans care more about the suffering of Congolese people than the Congolese government does?
On the speakers list, we also have the Holy See. That's more than Europeans. Brazil, Botswana, Japan, South Sudan, Egypt. So there's certainly more than Europeans who are concerned with what is going on in DRC?
I wasn't just meaning to confine it to Europeans. I mean, put another way, can we say that the Congolese government doesn't really seem to care about its own people if it's not interested in promoting what the UN and the international community sees as, the welfare and the needs of people who are suffering in terrible circumstances?
I think that the government will answer that question. So I think you should ask the government whether it cares for its people. I think that we have this year, as in previous years, we have established a humanitarian response plan in close collaboration with the government. We have a shared commitment to help people in need. Indeed, on the 18th of January this year, we jointly with the government launched the appeal, for which we are also fundraising today.
Okay, quick follow-up, please.
Just to follow up, though, I mean, is there any alternative, in your view? I mean, there are obviously people with desperate needs. You're saying, come to the UN today, pledge money to help these people with desperate needs. The Congolese government appears to be saying, don't come to the UN today to pledge money to help these people. Is there an alternative to the route that you're suggesting of pledging money to help the UN effort?
I don't think the two are necessarily, in principle, mutually exclusive. As we see in DRC and in other countries, and as we just discussed, there are pledges are being made, money are being committed and indeed dispersed against the UN-coordinated humanitarian response plans and outside of the humanitarian response plan in any country. So those are two different modalities. They're not mutually exclusive.
Okay, quickly.
Yeah, a quick follow-up on Tom's remark. I forgot. Yes, I would like to have the reaction of human rights about it, that in fact a government is against the will of the international, or the help of the international community to help their people. What is the reaction of human rights on that? Thank you.
Well, Catherine, nobody from the Human Rights High Commissioner is here, so I might ask you to contact the spokesperson, Rupert, and see what he can give you. Okay. Yeah, okay. There was Frédéric.
Thanks. Just briefly, Jens, you might have said it, but what's the current level of funding against this appeal launching in January? Thank you.
So the current level as of this morning against the appeal is that it has received $209 million US, which represents some almost 13%.
Final questions to Isabel, please.
In information that you promised to send us, is if you can send that before the stakeout, because it would be useful to have that when we are there. And if you can be precise on the rate of increase for every sector, because if you just send figures for this, how the breakdown is, without comparison with the last appeal, we cannot compare what sectors are more important now, where the needs are more important, where the increase has been more important.
I will do my best.
Okay, very, very final question on this.
Well, sorry, we're all dancing around this. I mean, Jens, you haven't really given us a clear answer. I just want to be clear. Would you like to see the government of Congo come to this pledging conference? And if so, why? Because, we're asking, are you bothered about whether or not they're not coming? And you sort of say, well, it's a question, you should put to the mission, and, it's not necessarily mutually exclusive. I mean, why would you like to see them come to this pledging conference?
I hope I don't sound like that when I try to answer your question. The invitation has gone out to the government, obviously, and we wouldn't send out an invitation if we didn't want to see them. Of course we want to see them. We work with the government. We work in any country. The UN is there to support the government. That's just the way the international system works. And of course we would like to see them, and there are several. Our collaboration, our relationship continues, and I think actually you will hear much more about that at 1 o'clock.
Exactly. There won't be any more questions at the 1 o'clock press briefing. Go ahead. Last question.
One last one, Jens, because I talked to the DRC's ambassador yesterday, and he gave us the prime reason for DRC not attending is that they weren't consulted about the conference, about the needs assessment, about the level of the needs. He said that they had, and I mean, is that right? The UN went ahead with this without talking to Kinshasa?
That they were not consulted about holding a conference? And about what, sorry?
About the needs and the UN's assessment of the needs, that they wanted to be involved from the start.
Right. I mean, again, we launched the appeal that is from where these numbers come, jointly with the government. That does not mean that there cannot be differences of opinion, but the appeal is there. We need to refocus again to what is important today, which is the main obstacle right now. The main obstacle right now to actually implementing a lot of projects and programs that have already been designed, where the staff is in country to do it, the leadership is ready, the strategies are there. The main obstacle is the lack of funding, and that's where our focus is today.
All right, let's leave it at that, and the conference is starting now, so keep your questions, additional questions for 1 o'clock with Mark Lowcock and other representatives. Thank you very much, Jens. Jorge, while you are here, you want to give an update on the Mediterranean arrivals and deaths.
So IOM reports that 16,147 migrants and refugees entered Europe by sea in 2018 through April 11, with the vast majority arriving in Italy and the rest in Spain, Greece, and Cyprus. This compares with 33,602 arrivals across the region through the same period last year. And we're almost reaching the 1,000 deaths for 2018. Worldwide, our Missing Migrants project has recorded 933 deaths and disappearances during migration in 2018. In the Mediterranean alone, 557 migrants are estimated to have died this year. Most recently, 36 migrants died in the Western Mediterranean.
Thank you, Jorge. Are there any questions? No. Okay, thank you very much for being with us this morning. Tariq, you had an announcement you wish to make? Please come on up.
Thank you, Raul. Good morning. Just to announce a virtual press conference next week. So we are not coming to Palais because there are lots of health correspondents that are interested in the next week meeting of SAGE. So SAGE is, some of you have been following, is a strategic advisory group of experts on immunization, and it's a principal advisory group to WHO for vaccines and immunization. As you may recall, they meet twice a year, and they discuss a range of different topics related to vaccines for various diseases. During this meeting that is taking place, so Tuesday and Wednesday, SAGE will review the progress and strategy of the measles and rubella elimination agenda and the malaria vaccine implementation program. SAGE will also review updated policy recommendation on dengue vaccine and the post-polio eradication certification strategy. It will also discuss WHO's efforts to guide the development of new vaccines. So the meeting is Tuesday and Wednesday, and the virtual press conference we plan to have will take place on Thursday. We will send out the media advisory. We hope to have this press conference at 4 o'clock on Thursday with the chair of Strategic Advisory Group, that's Dr. Alejandro Cravioto, and with our Secretary of the SAGE, Dr. Joachim Hombach, together with Dr. Martin Friede, who is the Director of Immunization, Vaccines and Biological. So if you are interested in any of these developments, 4 o'clock Thursday.
Thank you, Tariq. Are there any questions for Tariq? Okay, thank you. I just have one announcement regarding meetings happening at the Palais. The Committee on the Protection of the Rights of All Migrant Workers and Members of their Family, which opened this week at the Palais Wilson, actually, its 28th session, will be holding a public meeting with states in room 7 of the Palais des Nations next Monday at 3 p.m. So please note that the second meeting devoted to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which was initially planned for this morning, has been cancelled as the committee proceeded and achieved yesterday afternoon the review of the implementation of the convention on that country without report nor delegation from the state party. Please also note that the election of the new bureau of the committee, which was postponed on Monday due to Air France strike, not allowing some committee members to be present at the opening meeting, has seen Mr. Amadou Tal from Senegal elected as chairperson, and as vice chairpersons we have Jasminka Zoumour, Maria Landazuri de Mora, and Kan Unver. And Ms. Khedija Lajal was elected as a rapporteur. The committee will close its session next Friday by issuing its concluding observations on Algeria, Guyana, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the 3 countries that have been reviewed during this 2-week session. We've already mentioned the press briefing at 1 o'clock, so I won't repeat that. If there's nothing else, we'll head off to the conference. Yes, Stephanie.
Yeah, I wondered whether you might have anything from the Office of the Special Envoy, given that there was no, we've had nothing from them for some weeks now. Any readout on the situation following the task forces yesterday?
Well, the task force met, but we haven't had any information coming out of that. What I can tell you is that the Special Envoy for Syria, Mr. de Mistura, has traveled to Riyadh. He's attending the ministerial meetings of the 29th Arab League Summit, which began yesterday in Riyadh, where senior Arab officials are discussing various political, security, and military developments facing the region. While he's there, he will be holding meetings with ministers on the margin of the event. That's what he's up to at the moment. I mean, he continues to have exchanges with relevant parties. Of course, he's determined, as ever, to pursue the political peace process in Geneva, and trying to implement the full implementation of Security Council Resolution 2254. So he is continuing consultations with key international actors and partners, and his team does continue to forge the path towards building the Constitutional Committee. That's it. Okay. Thank you very much, and have a good day and a good weekend. We'll see you at 1 at the press stakeout.